Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Mark is on the train today, joined by my good friend, Grant Turner, who's been, as usual, traveling. GT, good to see you back in the office, so to speak. How are you, my friend?
Oh, doing great, my friend. Just back to the grind.
Back to the grind. So we didn't get to talk to you last week, so it kind of works out well. We reviewed the men's freestyle results, and we're going to get into the women's freestyle results and the Greco-Roman results. Your initial thoughts on the non-Olympic weights on the men's side? Vito, James, JB, Taylor. I mean, it felt like all these guys have been world silver or bronze or silver or gold medalists, excuse me. We got Olympic gold medals in there. Almost the opposite of a changing of the guard, the Marcus Blaze storyline, the Chance Marsteller versus Burroughs again. James Green, Laceman is back. David Taylor and signing up at the last minute. I want to give you the floor and just talk about any of those things for a few minutes on, what you thought was meaningful.
Well, I mean, my first initial thought was, let's just make sure that Vito can make the 2018 team and we just, recycle the team from, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think, my biggest takeaways from the people that are actually making the team and going and competing in Albania is, I don't know, once again, I didn't get a chance to watch the pod where you guys kind of talked about this a little bit, but I think everybody that I was there with mentioned to me that James Green at 70 versus 65 is just night and day different between how good he can be. And then all of a sudden, he goes to 65 and doesn't have as much there. And once again, if you talk to James, I bet you he would say that maybe probably the same thing, but him at 70 is a completely different animal in the freestyle game. So also a lot of injury, come back, really cool storyline for James as a USA Wrestling follower. So really cool to see that. Also humongous shout out to J.O. Been our Olympic trials champion, but then, almost got qualified for the Olympic Games. But, once again, seeing J.O. come back to wrestling as well. And, once again, he's kind of tweeted out that he wants to kind of continue to be back. And it's hey, see you guys in April type thing. So,
yeah,
really cool to see that. Going up weight classes here, Jordan Burroughs. Jordan looked really good. Just a really, really great performance by him because I think, Chance does a really good job against JB, and Chance is hard to score on. So, but JB just looked really good.
I wanted to ask you two questions about Burroughs. One was the tactics. It seemed like he made a concentrated effort to make it much more difficult for Marsteller to get to his legs because Marsteller felt like Marsteller got to his legs. I don't want to say easily, but way less difficult than you would think for a guy of Burroughs' level at the last time they wrestled. And then the second thing was the Burroughs interview where, he said he was sort of mad at the wrestling community and not everybody, but how he got treated at the trials in Penn State and this bounce back. You've been around this game a long time, even though you're a young man, you've been around the game at the high level because of what you do besides this podcast, you're friends with these guys. And the ones, even you're friends with the guys that aren't Nike athletes. So I was really curious your take on those two things.
Well, I think the biggest thing is as a wrestling fan, regardless of corporate partnerships or, just being a good USA Wrestling person, I've always had a great appreciation for Jordan Burroughs as a person, as a competitor, as a representative of the brands that he represents. All the way dating back to, things that he did early in his career. So once again, I think after being a part of the game for so long and then having maybe not necessarily, he became basically Captain America, the best guy that we ever just representing. And all of a sudden he has this new villain arc where he's but I think, that definitely could wear on an athlete where, you've been kind of the mainstay, you've been the hero of USA Wrestling for a long time. And then just to have the community that you've been supporting for a long time kind of make a little turn on you. So I mean, the comments I get, but I hope that if Jordan were to ever watch this or, talk to anybody, dude, as soon as he walked off the mat in the semis, I was like, hey, Jordan, look great. Amazing job. You just give people props and it's genuine.
You and I get a chance to talk offline a lot, and it's one of the benefits of us working together is we become friends. And you're doing a lot of things that are public. I'm doing a few things that are public. And it's funny because 98% of the people either are supportive or frankly just don't care. They're living their own lives. But of those 98, a few people will reach out. And it's not their job to reach out. You and I don't reach out to everybody that we support and verbally tell them. It's the 2% of the haters and then how they hate. And, like that guy in the stands, you're done, you're retired. And, the phrase you see these kids use now, that didn't age well. I'm so happy that didn't age well. I'm not happy that Burroughs won in the sense of I was rooting for him over anybody else. You mentioned the James Green 65 to 70 kgs. I think Burroughs is getting the age where 74 versus 79 is a different thing too. I mean, we saw him wrestle 74 for a long time. He built his resume at 74, but we all know this. As you get older, it's harder to cut weight. It's harder to lose weight. It's harder to stay in shape. Your bones actually, I think, get more dense. So I don't know. I guess I'm interested, we haven't talked about Taylor yet. So why don't you go there? Because I'm interested if you think how much longer Burroughs and Taylor are going to keep wrestling, but especially with Taylor being the head coach. I feel like Taylor leaves his Nikes on the mat at the Worlds, but I'm curious what you think about that and about just how he did wrestling.
Well, once again, I think for Jordan and David, Jordan, I think, has the ability to continue to compete longer than maybe David, because David's got a different career path with, with his being the head coach of Oklahoma State and all the responsibilities that basically come along with that.
Right.
I think the other thing too about Jordan and David, just in their ability to continue to compete, they both have really good options. Because I think, with DT, being at kind of a non-Olympic weight, JB being a non-Olympic weight, I think both of them, in order to basically go towards the Olympic Games in LA, I believe that both of them would have to basically go down, right? So JB would go to 74, David would go to 86 in order to do that, right? So as you get longer in your career and basically all those type of things, I think it will come to a decision process for both of them on when does that actually occur, and if that's their goal is to go all the way to the Olympic trials in LA. I just think that right now, I think it's so fresh that the trials just happened and whatnot. So once again, I'm just excited to see all of them compete in Albania, if that's truly what David wants to do, and then basically go on and see how our process goes into 2025 for the World Championships for all 10 weight classes.
For sure. I think there's a path where Burroughs goes to 86. And the only reason I say that is I think Flo put this match on. I think it was during COVID when he wrestled Taylor at 86 and he lost, but it was a competitive match. And when they were at 74, Burroughs beat David regularly. And
right.
If you look at our country at 86, I don't think Aaron Brooks is ever making 86 ever again. I mean, he's a Nike athlete, so you would know better than me. But I feel like he's going to go 92 for at least a couple years, and then probably, which would be amazing, him and Snyder wrestle off at 28. But, I mean, he was cutting a truckload of weight to make it. And he wrestled 197, and to give people an idea, 86 is 189.2 ... he's also growing. I mean, he's like 23, 24 years old. By the time he hits 28, I think if you're Aaron Brooks and you just look at the next 4 years of your life, you're like, do I want to keep my weight? Do I want to figure out a path where I go from 202 to 189? Or, do I go, 202 to 189? Or do I figure out a way to go from 202 to 213 and actually enjoy life and be able to have meals with my family and friends? And so 86 is a little up in the air. Like Zahid will be there. Trent Hidley will be there. But there's nobody that you go right now, that guy would kill Burroughs. I don't think there's anybody at 86 that you go, that guy would absolutely kill him on the national scene. I mean, I'm curious if Scarachi stays. I'm curious if like Parker Keckheisen stays, because those guys are wrestling 184. That's a good transition for them. But I just don't think there's anybody right now where you go, there's no way he could beat that guy. So, well, it was the Taylor story was fascinating because obviously a lot of things that you don't necessarily tell us because you're told in confidence and things like that. But there wasn't really much of a public mention of it at that golf tournament we were at, which was right before the Worlds. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a lot to unpack on all of those different kinds of conversations. So it's, I mean, we could speculate all day on how that would all go.
Yeah. Well, it's always interesting, like when people make decisions and stuff like that. So I also think there's like a 99% chance he's going to wrestle in the Worlds, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's not that far of a training camp, right? You're already kind of, going through preseason. You're getting your body already in shape. You're wrestling every day. Once again, it's a small tournament. You're not having to do like multiple training camps leading up to like a big Worlds, right? So like we're about a month away. Yeah, about a month away from maybe when he would actually travel to go there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty easy, and once again, it's before the collegiate wrestling season actually begins. And I don't know necessarily. And once again, I think the coaches can, take the reins for a week and be like, hey, like we got this. Go do your thing.
Yeah, I think there's I got a chance to talk to Plot's dad, and he was saying how he loved wrestling for John, but how great it is for Dustin to be able to wrestle. That Dustin was saying how great it was to be able to wrestle with Taylor. And, those guys are showing those clips on Instagram, and he's actually wrestling with them and things like that. And, I think the new staff is different in the sense that those guys are wrestling every day. Like Jimmy Kennedy looks like he could still probably go do a triathlon like right now. Gilman's still in great shape. Taylor's still in great shape. Caldwell's always been in great shape. I mean, I don't know how much he's wrestling, but all those guys, like if you said my coaching staff can out wrestle your coaching staff, not based on credentials, like right now at this age, they got to be in the top three. I mean, I think that's part of Penn State's secret too, that Cale wrestles, Varner wrestles. I mean, like, Cale wrestling's a very real thing. Like, Cody runs the room a lot of days and Cale's wrestling, and I know Casey wrestles a lot. So there's no really easy pivot to this. We need to go back and cover the Greco and the women's results. Let's go to Greco first. And the story, I think, of the week on the Greco side is the passing of Alan Vera. Gary Abbott and I spoke yesterday, which was great. He gave me a little bit of background on Alan because he goes, do you really know him besides interviews? And I'm like, I don't. I only know about him. He spoke very highly of Alan, said, he's one of the few people that left like a place like Cuba, and I can't think of the defected and actually wrestled. He said that he's a great father and husband. And one of the things he said was, he goes, if he would help the guys that he wrestled against, like he would show them what he had done against them or what the other guy did right or wrong against him, which I think is super rare. Maybe it's less rare as you go up, but I mean, like, you don't see, if you and me wrestle in the state finals, you don't see us helping each other in the off season unless like one of us is moving out of state or gained 20 pounds. So I'm guessing, well, I think you worked with Alan in some capacity. And I know you know all the guys out there in Omaha where he was, at his last training camp. Maybe give us a little bit of insight on him.
Well, I've been very close to Alan ever since he came, basically over from CUDA, and like worked a lot with like JD Robbins in Florida when he was training down there with the Florida Jets, and kind of getting, all of the things that basically happened with Alan's life, basically becoming an American citizen, getting onto the, US team, being a world team member, qualifying the weight class for the Olympic Games in Paris, being a guy that like scary good, scary talented, just an amazing athlete in general. And then you basically get to know him and you're like, well, not only is he like one of the best athletes on the planet when he's on, but like he's one of the nicest, kindest, gentlest people, and just super amazing. And, his wife, Elena, we worked together quite a bit as well when she was competing. And it's a tragic moment for their family. Alan is, recently became a father. They had a child together, and just complications based off of that. It's, there's so much beyond the sport that occurs. With also the Greco community is extremely tight knit.
Yes.
So it's, so if you're anywhere between, whatever it is, 70 kilos and 180 kilos, like Alan was working with it.
Yeah.
So it's like just one of those things that it's hard to put into words because it's still so fresh for me, but it's gone too soon.
He's 33. He's 33, and Elena Piraskova is his wife, and she was the world-class wrestler, world-class. And there is a GoFundMe out there for the family. Gary said USA Wrestling, they don't know what they're doing yet about all that, but it just reminds me we should probably talk about people that are good while they're alive. Like we should make a better habit of saying like, hey, this person was amazingly supportive of what I did in my life. This person helped me when I was down. This person gave me the time of day when a lot of other people didn't, whatever. And it's certainly not the same, but like I called Nancy Schultz when Dave Schultz died, and I told her a story about how Dave Schultz treated me when I was like 12 years old. And to this day, like I could tell that story verbatim. I could walk into Hilton Coliseum and go to the exact spot in the tunnel where he was kind to me. And, we don't think of doing that while people are alive, and we should. So there is a GoFundMe out there if you want to support the family. I don't think it's very hard to find. Like USA Wrestling posted it. So you can always just go to themat.com or USA Wrestling socials on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I guess X is the right way to say Twitter, but I don't know if anybody's actually saying that. Again, no good pivot. We'll go to the Greco results. So 4 non-Olympic weights. The first weight here was 55 kilos. Brady Kuntz was the 1 seed GT. He went 9.073. You got to buy the 9.073. And then he won in the finals convincingly. Like he looked good. He won 9.080 against Crosby. Crosby was a bit of a surprise to make the finals, I believe. Like he was the 3 seed, so maybe not, but he beat Billy Sullivan 6-4. Kuntz is one of the guys training up there in Dubuque with Dennis Hall. He looked pretty good, in my opinion. I assume you kind of feel the same way. What were your thoughts on Kuntz's performance?
Yeah, Kuntz looked really good. Once again, at 55, he's extremely great for the U.S. I think basically on the bottom side of the bracket there, between Sullivan and Crosby, big shout out to the Northern Michigan guys. They had a pretty good tournament. So, I really like what Bezik's doing up there. But, I think with Kuntz, he's been a journeyman at this weight class for a long time, and he definitely does some things that are like not necessarily unorthodox, but for his frame and his style, he definitely puts together a pretty good tournament. So you could see kind of in the finals, like he looked pretty good.
Yeah. He's not Olympic weights, like Kuntz is a guy that's been around the game a long time. You hope that he can have some success. At 63, Ildar Havisov was the 1 seed. He went by. First round, tough match, 7-5. Then 10-0 against Mumi. Max Black came out of the bottom side. And then Havisov beat him, but it was a 2 out of 3. Havisov won 11-0, then Black won 3-1, and then Havisov won 9-0. And that's sort of the quirks of international wrestling, right? Like, basically, if you're not familiar with Greco, it is a ton to do with when you get on top, do you turn somebody? And I watched the second and third match, and, Havisov turned him in the third match and didn't turn him in the second match, and Black got a turn, and that was the difference. Ildar's our most experienced guy at this weight. So, he earned the spot, and clearly, clearly he earned the spot. And based on experience, he probably is one of our better chances to place at the tournament next month, correct?
Yeah, no, Ildar's been a journeyman for a long time. Even when he wrestled for Uzbekistan, he's been grinding for a long time. I think that he's been competing and continues to compete at a very high level for himself for a long time. So I'm excited to see him at this weight class and see how well he does. But like I said, I think, once again, Northern Michigan put another guy in the finals there, and took one of the best 2 out of 3. So congratulations to Ildar on basically making the world team again. And I think he'll be in a good place.
Yeah. 72 kilos, some interesting things happen here. Let's not bury the headline. Benji Peak was in the round of 16, got a bye, went 10-0, 11-1. And then Perkins didn't weigh in for the final, so I'm curious what you know about that. But the semi was interesting. Peak beat Peyton Robb, Tech followed him 11-1. So I have 2 questions, I guess 3 questions for you, and I won't just throw all 3 at you. You can answer them in any order you want, and I'll remember them. What'd you think about Peyton Robb wrestling Greco? What happened with Perkins in the finals? And the third question popped out of my head, but it'll come back to me. So Peyton Robb and then the finals. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think once again, I think when we talked maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago when I was on the pod, I hadn't necessarily followed Peyton's Greco career, so I was very excited to see him compete, and he looked pretty good. He looked he hadn't missed a step, and basically looked really good at the weight class. So I was excited, and then once again, I think Benji is a rising star within the Greco USA wrestling community. I feel like he's healthy. I think his shoulder's feeling good. Definitely one of those guys that the sky's the limit for him, especially if he gets on top, because he's got kind of a grip it and rip it attitude where he has a really good parterre. He has good lifts. Not afraid to go mix it up upstairs. So wrestled really well. Of course, Rayvon kind of coming back home, to Nebraska, had a really big following, great presence for him and his family and kind of supporters that were all there to watch him compete. I don't know if it was an injury or if it was weight or if it was something else that basically on day 2, basically just didn't weigh in the next day. So basically Benji becomes the world team member basically
by default,
right? So, which is kind of that's crazy. Because we had basically seen that at the Olympic level with Vinesh and Sarah, and it's so it's okay, well, I guess it's just over. So Benji's the guy. So, but Rayvon looked really good up until that point, but really excited for Benji making another world team. Really excited to see what he does this year, because I think that he was pretty dang close to making a good run at the Olympic trials at 77. So just excited to see him compete.
Yeah, he was in that beat the Streets New England event, him and Spencer Woods, and couldn't have been nicer guys. And you and me had talked about Peak a couple years ago that he lets it rip. He's a high offense guy. Yeah, obviously we have struggled at the senior level, like at the Olympic levels. I see Kamal Bey fighting the good fight online for people, people that aren't being as supportive as Greco as he would like them to be. And I'm biased because I'm friends with Kamal. Peak feels like guys like Benji and guys like Kamal feel like they could be the face of the sport, because they go like they don't want to have the you get one time on top, I get one time on top. They can win that game, but they would prefer not to. They would prefer to be in a 10-9 shootout than a 1-1 who wins parterre kind of thing. So, we wish him the best. 82 kilos. So this is the first time I've ever this. All right. So Kikinu is how we pronounce this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he went by 5-1, 3-2. In the semis, he went 10-3. And then he beat Porter in the finals 5-1, 3-1. But I don't know if you saw this because there's a lot of stuff to see there. Kikinu got pinned in the semis. And he was gassed, like just gassed, and threw a brick on the pin. And you can't change a pin, but I think the only way to challenge is like if he wasn't in bounds, but it was a leg foul. They challenged a leg foul, and he won the challenge, which first of all, it's a smart challenge because if you're getting pinned, who cares, right? Like that's your YOLO brick. They won the challenge, and then it took so long to figure it out. He got his legs back under him. I think he's like 44 years old or something. He's from that Poway area, if I'm correct. And just your thoughts on that whole weight class.
Well, I think, once again, another guy that brings a ton of experience to our Greco team. And a couple of years ago, he wrestled off Kamal Bey for the world team spot. So it's not like he just came out of nowhere
right
to make this team. Right. So, he's been a part of other training camps. Like he continues to compete at a very high level, but yes, you could definitely see if you watched a lot of his matches, they're definitely going to need to get him on a treadmill or something because he was gassed in a lot of his matches.
Yeah.
Basically almost the entire tournament.
Yeah.
So but I think one of the things too is that like based off of the rules of Greco and based off of what all of that stuff basically entails for challenges and like leg fouls and stuff like that. Once again, it was a good challenge. Yes, it came at a time that he was probably a little bit more winded than normal, but like leg fouls are leg fouls. So you got to challenge when those things occur.
Yeah.
And I think that in Greco, there's so many more things to kind of challenge on whether or not leg foul, out of bounds, like correct throw, slip. Yeah. So once again, I think, selfishly, I think that this is a good team to go take, for the Greco team, guys that we've seen, guys that have been a part of the system for a little while now. And then, once again, just kind of seeing how, all of these other things kind of come to fruition, but
his style's better for international because it's a slower pace. Like those guys are not trying to force as much on their feet. So, he's got to get in better shape, but it might actually work out for him.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing on the international thing is that like, you got a couple of matches, got to stay focused, and it's win and move on, right? And then if you're going to lose, you better lose to somebody that's going to make finals. So just excited for this team, excited for the Greco guys, excited for them to get another opportunity to compete. So,
and to remind people, because we're about to jump over to the women's, athletes that competed at the Olympics are ineligible here. Okay.
Correct.
Like David Taylor didn't make the team. Burroughs didn't make the team, just because they're like probably the most high profile people from our country. So they could wrestle. But if they had made the team, so like Brooks. And here's a crazy thing that somebody pointed out to me. if Taylor wrestles and medals, he sits in Final X at 92 next year.
Yep.
If Brooks goes up to 92, he's in the semis, even though he beat Taylor to make the team at 86. And this is the second time this has happened. It happened to Brooks the year before with Zahid going up. So it's wild how these processes work. So, all right, on the women's side, 55 kilos, Martinez was the 1 seed. Baker beat Hauk. The 5 beat the 4. Everything else was pretty chalky. Villascusa beat Felicity Taylor in the semi. And this finals was great wrestling. My dad and I watched the second match together. Villascusa makes a team. She goes 4-3 and 11-8. And that 11-8 match, GT, might have been one of the more entertaining matches of the whole tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Villascusa looked really good. Basically, I was excited to see Amanda make that weight class too at 55. So I thought this was a really, really good bracket and a good final. I think there's a lot of other people. I mean, NCAA champ, or not NCAA champion, but college champion Felicity Taylor as a 3 seed has a really, really good match against. I don't want to say this name wrong. Uvalde.
I think that's right.
And then they wrestled in the quarters, and then they also wrestled for 3rd and 4th. So, I think it's just it was a good weight class in general, like good quality women competing. But I did like the finals a lot. They both came to scrap, a lot of points scored. So excited for Villascusa to make the team. I know that she's dealt with some injuries previously, so just super happy for her. She looked really good. So excited to see her compete at the World Championship or senior level. Because I don't believe that she's ever made a senior team prior to this. So,
I'm almost positive this is her first world team. You could see the joy on her face, and she's part of that WCAP program. She was part of the commercials that were on during the Olympics, like her and Spencer Woods, because I talked to Spencer about that, and that was cool that they were using wrestling as a vehicle to promote the military, which, is near and dear to my heart based on what we're doing with Border Brawl. But it was cool they were using wrestlers especially, and non-men's freestyle wrestlers, because those are the ones that generally get the least amount of publicity. All right, we go to 59 kilos, and Jakara Winchester might be the James Green of women's wrestling. Like, when she's at the right weight class, she's really freaking good. And when she tries to cut a lot of weight, it's just hard on her body. She goes by 10-0, 10-0. And then in the finals, she goes 11-0, 11-0. So she looked absolutely fantastic. Though she beat Duty in the semis. Duty upset most of XMP. Zawicki upset Nettie in the quarters. I'm sorry, 7, or by fall, she was losing 7-4. And then Beck was the 2 seed. So fairly chalky bracket. But the story here is Jakara. She lost to Helen in the trials finals at 57, goes up to 59, just walks through the bracket. Not only tech fall, or as the young guys like you say, 10 rip, but we're all rips. 0 points given up in the tournament. And she had Chun in her corner too, which is interesting.
Well, they've been friends for a really long time and been a coach ever since Jakara was at the Olympic Training Center. So feels very comfortable with Chun being in her corner. I mean, all the other thing about Jakara as far as weight classes are concerned is that she's competed at least probably 5 weight classes in the past 5 years. She's a world champion in 2019 at, I believe it was 55 kg. She's wrestled as low as 53. She wrestled Helen last year. She wrestled 62 at that last chance qualifier a year prior. So it's once again, Jakara she's a force. Extremely excited for her to compete at Worlds again. I think she's going to do really well at this weight class. So once again, when you add a journeyman like her as someone that's been a world champion already, super, super looking forward to seeing her compete.
Yeah, and 57 and 59 seem like the more ideal weights for her. And the women's weight classes are much closer than men's weight classes if people are looking. The heaviest women's weight class is 76, I believe, which is like 167 pounds and change. Okay, 65, there was the bracket and then the finals. Jen Page was the 1 seed. She went by 9-1, 10-0. Then, I'm sorry, and then she lost to Drury in the finals. Drury came from the bottom side. She was the 2 seed, and she went tech fall 11-0, beat Page. But then in the final, it was all Kilty, 10-0, 12-1, both in the first period. Kilty's had battles with Jen Page, so it was a little surprising Page didn't make it to Kilty, but Kilty making the team is not a surprise at all, and somebody that America should probably expect to have a really good chance to medal, correct?
Yeah, I think so too. And once again, she's healthy, and I mean, she looked really, really, really good. So, I mean, I think that Macy has a really good chance to, once again, make a run here at this weight class.
Yeah, I think she's super legit. And, it was, that's the whole thing. When you place the previous year, you get to sit. And, I think they've also changed this process a little bit where at least like it's the next day and stuff like that. But it is what it is. 72 kilos. So this was really Amita Lohr's weight for people that are, following things. Like she went down to 68 for the Olympics, obviously won the Olympics. Unbelievable story. But so McCoy there's only 5 ladies here, or 5 women, excuse me. McCoy, Welker, Grody, and or Skylar Grote. And then McCoy and Welker make the finals, and Welker wins by fall and then wins 5-2. These women have wrestled in college. That was one of the matches that decided the tournament and the duel between them and North Central. So it was Iowa and North Central. So Welker makes the world team. So, and then it's crazy. Like Iowa's got, I think Kilty's transferring in there and Blades is transferring in there. So that's a pretty good team, pretty good additions. That's a different kind of portal. We haven't talked about that as much on the women's side, but anyway, Welker does a really good job here. Would you consider her a fairly good chance to medal as well at this weight?
Yeah, I think at 72 is a better weight class for Kylie. I think that, she previously made a world team. I can't remember what year was it in, either in maybe Oslo or I can't remember. I think it was Oslo when she made the world team at 72. But I think also just, a couple of years later, more experience, been able to wrestle wrestling with, Tanya Verbeek at Iowa, just progressing in her journey with her wrestling career. I'm excited to see what Welker does on the senior level and give her a full run at, multiple countries. So yeah, I think it'll be really good for her, but I definitely think that this team has medal chances written all over it at all 4 weight classes. Just because I think, Jakara, Macy, and Kylie have all been on world teams prior. And Via Scusa making her first senior team. Just looking forward to seeing this team.
It's good for Villascusa to be on a team that have people that have been there before, I think, right? Like the first time you do something, it's cool to go with other people that have done it. Not saying she'd be scared is the wrong word, but, have some nerves maybe, and to be around people that are like, look, you belong here, and have some calm. Obviously, she's got a ton of experience in her corner, and she has a ton of experience as well. I don't mean to play like, she just rolled out of high school and got lucky or something. It's far be it. That's the opposite. But whenever you level up, it's good to be with people that have been at that level for a minute. I think it increases your opportunity of having initial success. And the worlds will be they'll actually be a lot easier to watch because it's only 12 weights total, so it's, they'll obviously go Greco women's free, men's, or the other way around, the women will be in the middle, but it'll probably be a much more condensed tournament, when they're only running 4 brackets in each style versus, the normal 10, 30, like I remember doing that play-by-play was 30 brackets in 8 days. And it's a lot. I mean, it's unbelievable opportunity. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was a blessing. Thank you to Justin Tritz and Track Wrestling and Shane Sparks and those guys for the opportunity. So 0 complaints. But I think if you're watching this, there's less. A lot of people just watch like the quarters on or the Americans. And so there'll be less stuff to sort through, I guess is maybe a better way to say it. So, yeah, that's what happened over there at the trials, and we're glad we're able to get you on. It probably works out better with Mark not being on this week just because you can have more time, because he got to talk about his reactions last week. So in a certain way, it worked out well. I want to thank you for the help with the border brawl we ran at Saturday. Very successful for us. I always tell people success is nobody got injured, no bad calls. Kids had a good experience. Uniforms look great. So appreciate your help and all that. The pictures are up. I think I sent you an email of a big block of photos, and I'll send you the other one here shortly that you can share with your folks back at Nike. But Randy Couture came in. We were able to raise a good amount of money for the foundation. And, this is my chance publicly just to thank all the people that help, from the people that run the scoreboard to the people that get us on the air, like to my mom that's in the back selling T-shirts and, no job too small, to my friend Carrie that worked the bar when we had a few people bail out on us, Jeremy Rooks, who did double duty as the streamer and also the public address announcer. Just wanted to thank all those people. We're starting to get okay at it, GT. When we do the one here in St. Louis, we don't have to find a new location every time. It gets a little bit easier. So a little bit less stressful, which is nice. I don't know what you want to do here. We got some time. We can go into 125s if you want to make picks, but I don't know if we just cut this one a little short and, in the month of October, get through the weight classes and the team picks. I feel like besides that and Worlds, that'll be the primary focus. Like we could probably hit 2 or 3 weight classes, and we can go back and look at last year's picks and see how right and wrong we were. I do know I picked Figueroa. I don't know what I picked at the other 9 weights. So, but I'll look okay when we review 125. I don't know about the rest of it. It is in the Google Doc, though, and it has not been altered.
Yeah, that is true. No, I think a couple of things that maybe just to touch on is, looking up at basically, world championships for U23s, continue to look towards that here in the next month. We'll have multiple podcasts between now and then that we'll talk about the collegiate season, but also the USA Wrestling thing as we continue to go towards the world championships for seniors. I think the biggest thing also just in general as we approach at least the collegiate season on all fronts is that there is still some coaching additions. Coaches got different jobs as we continue to make sure that we head into the season with kind of a whole synopsis of where everybody actually is at, where people have transferred to. So as you guys kind of do your own homework at either watching or listening, be prepared to have those conversations as we continue to approach the collegiate season on all fronts. And then, it'll be a really good month in preparation for both U23 Worlds, USA Wrestling, the collegiate season approaching. We have also preseason nationals approaching during that same time period at the end of October. I know that USA Wrestling just posted high school girl rankings.
I spent 20 minutes yesterday adding that to the document because the event, which we will announce that about that we're doing in the spring, that has a big impact on things. Correct. Yeah. And that takes a lot of work, that post-Fargo data dump and getting the seniors out and adding the new kids in. There's more girls that are homeschooled than there are boys, in terms of these rankings. It's a Herculean task that Gary Abbott and that crew does. Yeah.
It's unreal. Just in order to once again, if you get a chance to go to the USA Wrestling website, look at all this stuff. They're looking at basically like pound for pound rankings, girls that have moved weight classes. It's like, well, they got 8th at 95 or like,
it's a lot.
It's a lot to be able to do. So once again, for the wrestling nerds out there, you can spend at least, half a day or 3 days on all that, kind of seeing where everybody wants to go. But I think as we progress into the weighing in stuff, as we get into the actual wrestling season, a lot of it will be after Worlds. We'll basically focus more on the kind of the collegiate arm of USA Wrestling, especially with the women's teams and the collegiate men's teams. But yeah, in preparation for Worlds, take a look at like our U23 team, which we'll be able to talk about here in the next couple of weeks. But
we can talk about who's number one for a few minutes. I just realized like that's coming up Sunday. But you mentioned the girls' rankings, and I should mention, we've had a bunch of border brawlers that are ranked in here, but probably the highlight in terms of quality of wrestling was Maya Hairston, who's number 11 at 95, jumped up a weight and wrestled Maddie Neuenhuis, who's number 4 at 100, and Katie Biscaglia from Iowa, your neck of the woods, who's number 16 at 100. By the way, Bisco came down. Kyle came down. If we get Katie in next year, I talked him into doing play-by-play with us, which would be awesome. Super smart kid. And then also Zoe Haney was number 8 there. So we had all 4 of those young ladies were ranked, and the 2 Missouri girls wrestled the 2 non-Missouri girls like twice. Like Maya wrestled Zoe and Maddie. And so that was great to be able to highlight them. And, we go to who's number one. They've got the bout order up here. So the meet's on Sunday from Pennsylvania, Pitt Johnstown. The girls bout order, 2 p.m. Eastern. I won't blow through all the names, but like 155, 130, 145, 100, 110, 140, 120, 125, 135, 115, and 105. And they got a ton of number 1s and 2s here. It looks like almost all of them. So, congratulations to them on that. The boys matches, and as a guy that runs events, and I talked to you about it, like they had Lettington is out, Posada's in. So this stuff happens, whether it's injuries or people just can't make it or whatever. Jaden James the other thing was they were going to bump. So Maddox Shaw was going to bump. All right, we'll try to go through this, but or maybe I got it right. Jaden James against Colin Gage from Pennsylvania, and the winner of that's going to wrestle Maddox Shaw. Munaredo versus Villasenor. Melvin Miller, Rabadou, Sahaki, and Correa. Watch this match. They're both committed to Michigan. Okay, Correa was at 215 last year. Sahaki flipped from Arizona State to Michigan. It would not be surprising to me based on how this match goes if one of these guys maybe decides to go to school somewhere else, because they're heavyweights, bro. Like they can't, it's not like, well, hey, we're 184 pounders and we'll figure out somebody will go up or go down. Sergio Vega, Drew Gorman. This says here Ludington, Ziola, but as we just said, it'll be Posada. Knox against Seidel. Jax against Mendoza again. Maddox Shaw will wrestle the winner of the Jaden James match. Ladarian Lockett and Ryan Burton. And then Bo Bassett, Daniel Zepeda. The last match, Bo lost to a high school wrestler with Zepeda a year ago at Who's Number One, where he got, and I don't really like this term, but it's accurate, he got tech pinned. Okay, so I think Bo was also growing, but to be fair, you get teched and pinned, like it's not like, well, somebody got lucky. Like somebody beat the hell out of somebody else. That's just how it goes. So there'll be some great matches. I think Papa Ron might come over, GT. I'm trying to
there you go.
Come over on the big screen and watch a little wrestling with me. So we'll see how that goes. But that'll be on Flow. Obviously, they put that event on, and they said there's some tickets available. So if you're out in that PA area, go out and support that. But they've got, it looks like at least 10 matches on the boys and girls side, so 20 matches. And they're starting at 2 o'clock on the girls side, 5 o'clock on the boys side on Eastern time. So anything else before we sign off?
No, just excited to be back and looking forward to being stateside for a while until we get to go over to Albania with the team.
You don't go overseas for a month.
Yeah, bud.
Hyatt Marriott will be calling you, asking you if you're still alive.
And they do check on me from time to time.
Yeah. Mr. Turner, is there anything we can do for you?
Not a chance.
You are titanium/platinum, both with those hotels and in my book. So for Mark, who is not here, for Grant, who's the best hair in wrestling, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you all next week.